You're listening to the Retro Viking Podcast, the best retro gaming podcast on the market. Let's stream like it's 1998.
Step into the garden. We're gonna lock the gate. We gotta keep out the sinners. We gotta keep out the hate. Look at the horizon. The time is coming near. Look out at the world on fire. Look at the people frozen in fear. We won't listen to their crying. They had their chance to see the light. We won't be handing out no pardons, 'cause the world is gonna end tonight.
The piece that we just heard is from our guest today, Miss Katja Savia, and it was the piece is called "World is Gonna End Tonight" from Far Cry 5, which is one of her newest videos from her YouTube channel. So, Katja, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
And I do music covers, game covers on YouTube, and some other music covers as well, and some of my original music.
About the piece that we just heard it's from the game Far Cry 5. Is there any reason why you decided to choose this one as your latest creation?
Months ago, I finished Far Cry 5, and I just loved the game. I like all the Far Cry games, but that one's especially sticked with me, and I just like the music in the game, and that's why I covered it like 2 times already.
All right, that's good. So I've been visiting your channel for a few months now, and you are an independent musician, is that correct?
That is right.
All right. So did you want to tell us a little bit about how everything started? And I noticed that you're selecting a lot of video games. So is that something that's very important to you?
I do like to kind of like analyze and explore video game music because they're interesting. I just want to know what kind of patterns and musical styles you have to use when you're listening to that music hours and hours. It kind of like fascinates me to know and just like explore game music and what's been involved making the music. Is one of my passions.
Does definitely show in each one of your videos, which are all amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
And since one of the reasons why I wanted to invite you today is because I wanted us to discuss about today's episode concept, which is basically video game songs that have a special meaning to us. So for me personally, I grew up playing video games all my life, all the way back from the 1980s. All the way up to 2018, and there's a few songs that have marked me in different ways, and I wanted to share these with our listeners. And I believe that you do also have a list of songs that you would like to share. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
All right. So, being a good host, I will be selfish and I will go first, if that's okay with you.
Fine.
All right. So, I was born early 80s, actually back in 1981, and I do remember one of the first video games that I've ever played in my life, which was called Bump and Jump on the Intellivision, which was a competitor to the Atari back in the days. And the reason why I'm choosing Bump and Jump is actually, it's a funny story. I've never actually owned Bump and Jump, but rather my uncle used to own it. And for many, many years, I've had memories of me going to my uncle's house when I was 5 or 6 years old and playing this amazing racing game on what I believe was my uncle's ColecoVision. The only reason why I thought it was a ColecoVision and not an Intellivision is because I didn't know back in the day that there were different models of Intellivisions. So for years I argued with my uncle, and I had to eventually, after the invention of the internet, he managed to prove me wrong and said, "No, you see, it was Intellivision. Stop arguing with me." So I have to give props to my uncle. He was right, I was wrong, and it's one of my first video game memories, and one of the first video game songs that I remembered from my childhood.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like stays with you forever, I guess.
It's pretty much stuck. as soon as I when I was listening to music to make this list, as soon as that song hit, the smile came back, and I was, oh no, I remember when I was wrong, because I'm never wrong, except when my wife is right. So because she does listen to the podcast. So hey, honey.
Listening to this music, and it's positive, not probably my type of music, but positive, and leaves you with a good mood, I guess.
I'm guessing this song is probably older than you. I don't want to be impolite, but
It is older than me.
So I fully understand that you might not relate to it as much.
I started out with DOS games and PC games. I never owned any consoles, but the first game that really changed my view on games was The Broken Sword, and that's why I picked that one. And I fell in love with the ending theme, obviously. During that time when I was playing the game, going through kind of like hard times in my life, but that game, it was so positive and filled with so many good jokes that I didn't understand back then because of my English. But just like playing the game hours and hours and finally figuring out all those puzzles, and when you finally hear that ending theme, it's like a reward, like super reward. It's a positive song, not my type of music, but I still listen to it here and there just to get into the mood, I guess. It's funny, positive song.
I was watching the. Unfortunately, fortunately, I do own all of the Broken Sword games. Now, unfortunately, I have not had time to play them yet, but I do know that they're very popular. And when I was researching for this song, now unfortunately I don't know the whole story, but everything looked epic at the end. There seems to be like this big conflict. There's this pyramid that seems to be crumbling. This monster is going to come and devour the world and everything. So just seeing about 2 minutes of gameplay makes me want to explore the series. So I'll definitely be looking into that.
Trailers are very epic. I would describe them as epic.
Which one of the Broken Swords would you say is your favorite? Is it the second one?
I started out with that Broken Sword, the Smoking Mirror.
Okay, so I'll correct me if I'm wrong, but is it better that we follow the order, or should I start with part 2 like you did? Are they all like individual stories, or is it a continuous story that you need to follow?
They kind of like relate to each other in some sort of way, I guess. So I'm keeping it the order as it is.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. But it definitely good choice. I was impressed when I was impressed with pretty much every song that you chose. They're all much more orchestral, and most of them do sound epic, or well, we'll see as the list goes by. So my second pick, and again, this is following my gaming history story. After I finished with the Intellivision, I went with the Nintendo Entertainment System, and there's so many epic songs that I could have chosen from, but the one that I did end up choosing is probably a game that not everybody has played, which is ice hockey. Now, being in Canada, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're in Finland, is that correct?
Yes.
Hockey, is it a popular sport in Finland? I know you guys go to the Olympics every time.
Yes, it is a big sport in here.
All right, perfect. So, you see, another reason why I like you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ice hockey was one of those games that even you could pick it up in 2018 and still have a blast playing it. And I remember it especially for the introduction music. So the introduction and menu music was this little peppy song that got you into the mood of having fun. And the reason why I chose ice hockey is for another memory that I have with one of my cousins, Adam. Adam and I are no longer really see each other. We kind of lost track. He's moved away far from where I am, and occasionally we see each other. But one of my best memories is when me and Adam, I would go sleep over to his place, or he would sleep over at my place, and we would stay up all night doing tournaments. We would recreate the Olympics. We would do a round robin tournament. Every team would play against every team, 3 matches, and yeah, we were nerds, but we had tons of fun. So that's one of the reasons why I'm choosing ice hockey as my number 2.
Choice.
Thank you.
I was listening to the music, and once again, it was very positive and peppy, like you described it.
It's very Nintendo-like.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It may not be the best music on Nintendo, but it does hold something special in my heart.
Good. My second pick was The Monkey Island, The Curse of the Monkey Island. And the whole soundtrack was something that I loved to listen on a repeat. The game kind of like reminded me of a Broken Sword. And so that's why I was kind of like interested of it, but the puzzles were kind of like stranger and harder to solve. And like I said, the soundtrack was interesting all in all, but the one song that just I kept hearing in my head was the Brimstone Beach Club. It's an ambient song, I would describe it as. So, but I remember the story, just like Guybrush goes to this beach, Brimstone Beach Club, and I stayed on that beach like hours listening to that theme. It kind of like reminded me of the girl from Ipanema somehow. And there were these sound effects like waves and thunder and wind, and I just closed my eyes and imagined myself somewhere else. It was like relaxing and calming in some way.
Indeed, it is a different vibe than the ice hockey theme, but it is.
Yes, it's so different.
It is. I do agree with everything that you said. I had the same feeling when I was listening to it the first time. Now, again, kind of like the Broken Swords, I know everybody's gonna want to kill me, but I have not played the Monkey Island games. And I basically got called out recently on that because we were doing, on our Facebook group, we were doing the best PC game of all time from the 90s. I'm sorry, the best 90s PC game of all time, and Monkey Island won. And I was, and I went ahead and I said, oh, well, I'm surprised that it won because I've never played it. I know everybody loves it, but I've never played it. And ever since I said that, nobody ever talks to me anymore. But however, since then, I have started looking into it, and I think the whole series, the Monkey Island series, has some great music. And one of the songs that actually caught my attention was the main theme song, which I believe that you did a great video demonstrating. You had a new instrument somebody had given you. I do apologize. I'm not an expert. You're the expert, so I forgot how the instrument is called.
It's a kalimba.
Kalimba.
And yes, I played the opening theme with it.
It was a great video. I was impressed. It's when you take a look at that instrument, it gives a different vibe to a song. Do you think that the Brimstone Beach Club would be something that you would perform in one of your videos? Is it something that you already plan to do?
I'm not sure. It's more like ambient music, so it would be harder to cover that song. But maybe I take some influence out of it or something.
And I have to ask you, which one of did you finish all 3 Monkey Island games?
The first and the second and third, and probably the fourth.
So which one do you think is the best in the series?
The third one.
The third one? Okay. So okay, and again, I'm just curious because I know these are all games I'm gonna have to go through eventually. So I'll keep that in mind, and I'll think about your what you said that the third one is the best, and I'll be able to get back to you in a few months once I finish playing all the Broken Swords and then the Monkey Islands and.
Oh, you have so much work to do.
Oh yeah, I know. Such little time and so much work.
Hmm.
But again, great choice. It is. I fully understand why you chose that song. It's a great song too. Uh, when I take a look at the list, you have much better taste than I do in music, because my my next pick is the Genesis version of Monopoly. Now, I'm not a big Monopoly guy. I'm a huge board game fan. So I don't know. Do you play board games sometimes, Katja?
Yes, sometimes.
Ooh, okay. Well, we're gonna have a little tangent. What is your favorite board game?
No, don't ask me that. It has been so long time since I've played it.
All right. So
Played anything.
okay. So you haven't played anything recent. Okay. So just to make sure that this doesn't evolve into a 3-hour podcast, I'm gonna keep all the board game stories for me for now. But someday I'll have to reinvite you. I'm gonna have to send you a few new board games to try out, and we'll have to do another podcast on board games someday.
Probably.
But as I was saying, the reason why I chose Monopoly on Genesis, again, you guys will notice that these are probably not the best music. Again, the Genesis was known for a few excellent titles. One of my actual favorites, and that's the one I was about to pick, is the Street of Rage theme song, which again I believe it's something that you covered on your channel, correct?
Yes.
And if I recall, it's like one of the first videos that made me discover your channel originally. The first one was actually the Gabriel Knight theme, and then I saw like next video in play was Street of Rage, and I was like, what? Street of Rage? And it was excellent. Did you want to tell us a little bit about those about maybe the Street of Rage theme? I'm just curious. It has nothing to do with the list, but I'm just curious to see what you think about the like. Why did you choose the Street of Rage theme?
Rage has cute music. There are some songs that I want to cover from Street of Rage. That opening theme, it was just like beautiful. I listened to it and kind of like imagined playing it in my head with the piano and tried to figure out all the instruments. But in that video, I used a pot to create drum sounds, and it was a funny little experiment for me.
I remember earlier you mentioned that you would go to a certain area in the game and just leave the game playing so that you could listen to the soundtrack. I remember doing that with the Street of Rage, with the Street of Rage theme song. I would just leave it there and I would do my homework listening to it. So I fully understand what you were meaning before. So actually, my pick is Monopoly. So the reason why I chose Monopoly is actually for my father. My father is not a gamer, not at all. However, I love him to death. And his game back when I was young was Monopoly. I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would hear the theme song playing because my dad would get up in the night to play it while I was not on the Genesis. So and I've had many good times playing that game with my father. He still tells me about it today. Every time I see my dad, it's always goes the same way. Say, what again do? You play video games and people watch you play video games? I'm like, yeah, Dad. He's like, oh, do you play Monopoly on Genesis? I'm like, no, Dad. Nobody wants to see that. Oh, well, I would watch you play Monopoly. I'm like, yes, Dad, I know. So I'm gonna have to do a special streaming session with my dad playing Monopoly. We're gonna have to do
definitely.
that. So Monopoly / Street of Rage / everything else, board games. All right, so that's about it for Monopoly.
A positive song, let's say that.
Oh yeah, it's the classic.
Mhm. Oh, my third pick was Gabriel Knight 3.
Gabriel Knight. Sorry, it's an automatic Gabriel Knight.
You have played it, I guess.
To be honest, I have not played part 3 yet, but it is on my list.
I totally understand. I picked the whole soundtrack. Once again, it's very, very beautiful. But I picked the hotel dining room theme, which is very strange because it's so weird. It's so weird song. If I would describe it, it's kind of like a melody. The moment you think you can remember the melody, the song just proves you can't remember. You can't sing it. You can't hymn it along. It just creates this nice little off, like the mood is off type of feeling to the whole hotel lobby. Well, not lobby, but the dining room.
When I was researching for this song, there were a few hotel room songs, and I have to admit I went through like a few of them, and the dining room did sound. It was awkward. There is.
That's the right word.
Awkward. Yes. So no, I agree with you. It seems as if there's something that's like out of place in that sequence.
Definitely. So I remember playing that game. My friend introduced that game to me, and we were playing with my friend. And even though it isn't like a horror game or scary game, still the story is about vampires and mysteries. And in some sort of way, the game just started to haunt me and the main character, the Gabriel, and the story. I just wanted to know more about the main character and the story. I just remember that being an awesome moment for me.
I remember looking into because I actually arrived on the Gabriel Knight bandwagon much later, as we'll see at the end of the list. So I have not played part 3. However, the story has me intrigued. Did you finish Gabriel Knight part 3?
Yes, I did.
Because I have a few questions, but I know they're going to be spoilers, so I think I'm going to keep those questions for you know what? I think I'm going to have to play the game. Another one of the games in my list that I have not had time to play. No, I'm sorry. I'm lying. It's not that I did not have time to play. I had just finished getting through Gabriel Knight 1, the first one, Sins of the Father, and it was an epic game. I was like, okay, guys, we're going to start Gabriel Knight 3. And I tried the controls. They were horrible. They're sort of like these, like the first generation of 3D controls where like and I was like, okay, it's gonna be that kind of game. But
Yeah.
I think I should give it a second chance. Generally, do you recommend it, the third one?
Yes, I recommend it, but like you said, the controls aren't and the scenery isn't the nicest, but the story is its story.
Yeah, it does
story's
look
good.
interesting, especially if there's vampires. I didn't know there were vampires. I'm ooh, I'm intrigued, which would make sense. I mean, he was battling the voodoo priests in part 1. He was battling the werewolves, so I guess vampires was next.
Logical.
So again, the hotel dining room. It is a short piece. However, I did enjoy it. It does get me intrigued into getting to know the game a little bit better.
It's strange song and awkward song, like you describe it.
My next one, oh wow! Now, okay, now I'm gonna try to rival your choices now. So we're gonna leave the console era. Now I'm gonna get into the Sierra stuff. So my next song is the Phantasmagoria theme song. Have you ever played Phantasmagoria?
No, I haven't. Brutal for me.
Ooh. All right. Now, well, okay. So my job is to so I have about 12 games that I have to finish since we started this podcast. So you're gonna have to get to Phantasmagoria eventually. It's a horror FMV game, and I remember discovering this game. Again, it's one of those games that I've never actually owned, but it was one of my best friends in high school, Mike. Mike owned this game, and it was this impressive 7 CD movie that we got to play, and it was a horror game, and it was real life actors. It was amazing. And one of the reasons why I love this theme song is I remember there was a lot of controversy when Phantasmagoria came out in the 90s. And the theme song was dark, it was creepy, gets you really in the mood of a haunted house theme. When I was growing up, I also started doing some magic, and the whole Phantasmagoria story is around a dead magician that haunts your boyfriend and starts chasing you around the house eventually, trying to kill you. So all this magic aspect kind of reached out to me, and it's a wonderful game. I recently did a playthrough about a month ago, back in August, and it was really fun. Since it wasn't my game, I didn't remember all the aspects, but as I was playing, it's like, okay, yeah, it's coming back to me, and the characters are amazing, the music is amazing. This is one of the songs that really marked my teen years when I was going to school. Everybody was listening to the new hip songs that were coming out. Gangster's Paradise was cool, all of these songs, but I was listening to the Phantasmagoria soundtrack when I was a kid.
Yes, it's like you said, dark, very dark, and like menacing, almost the main theme.
It is. You do feel uncomfortable. It does a very good job. Are you into horror games?
So I am, but I might get a bit too scared when I'm playing them.
See, I understand you. My friend tried to make me play. Well, there's a difference between being scared and being startled. I was about to make reference of the Five Nights at Freddy's game, which is like the game where you have to try to survive, and there's these mascots that tries to kill you, and it's not really scary. It's just startling because they get in your face and they scream. Phantasmagoria, I wouldn't say is the scariest game. Well, no, I'm sorry. The end game, when your boyfriend starts chasing you all around the house, it gets pretty intense. So yeah, that would be kind of scary. Somebody trying to kill you when you're stuck in the house. So yeah, maybe not play this one in the dark. Leave the lights on.
Probably going to happen.
Oh, I like your next choice. We were talking about vampires, and I was like, "Ooh, it's gonna be a good segue for her next song."
It is. So I picked out a Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines Vesuvius song. This was one of the first games that was starting to be like a violent game. In my first ever violent game that I played, and I remember like the feeling when I was playing this game that I was doing something wrong, and this was my secret, but I still kept on playing the game, and some of the things I wasn't very comfortable with, but I still kept on playing the game, and the whole game is very dark, and the songs are dark. But this Vesuvius, it's not a positive song, but it's very warm and kind of like welcoming, and I love it. I love it. I still this day I listen to it sometimes because it's so warm and nice song.
Now, I have not played the actual video game, but I am a fan of Vampire the Masquerade in general. So that's why when I saw VTM, I was like, "Ooh, Vampire the Masquerade!" And when I looked into it, I was like, "Oh, yes, it is." Have you ever played the pen and paper RPG of Vampire the Masquerade? So that's actually how I learned about Vampire. We used to play, me and some friends. Yeah, we were geekier. So. But yes, I totally agree. This is the kind of atmosphere that, like, I want to play that game. I was listening to it, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to look into it. Because Vampire the Masquerade, if you haven't played it already, it's not necessarily the type of game that I think of, oh, you know what, I want to play a Vampire the Masquerade video game. So I kind of forgot about it. So that's why I'm very happy that you made me discover this one. So that one I'll definitely be looking into that one. All right, we're back to the cheese again. SimCity on the Super Nintendo. Now you mentioned that you never played on consoles, right? So you probably never touched SimCity on the Super Nintendo. Okay. So have you ever played any of the SimCity games on PC?
No, I don't think so. Maybe I've just tried it out with my friends, but no, I haven't myself. I haven't played.
So the SimCity, the first SimCity is for me at least, it's considered one of the best city management games that was ever made. Today I think they're up to SimCity. They did maybe like 6-7 games, but for me, the one that holds the number one spot in my heart is the Super Nintendo version. Again, since it has the nostalgic factor, and it was so simple to play, and it's one of those games that I think the best example that I can give you is about 1 week ago. I was trying to stream the newest game that had just came out. It was the Lord of the Rings living card game, which is one of my favorite board games. So I was all excited, and I was, okay, guys, we're gonna play Lord of the Rings, the living card game, and then I started having issues with my internet connection. My router was acting up, so I kept on losing connection, and people were screaming at me on the stream. They were, hey, you're disconnecting, and eventually I decided, okay, you know what? I was getting frustrated, so I said I'm gonna pop up a Super Nintendo game. So my stream changed from the Lord of the Rings to Super Nintendo game, and I was going through a list of different games, and when I arrived at SimCity, I think I played for like 2 hours. Just because as soon as I popped that game again, all my frustration, my anxiety, it washed away. The music started playing. I was relaxed, and I was like, oh man, this is nice. This is a nice place to stay. So simple. You build your city. You watch your city grow. It's very calming, and I do remember owning this game. This is one of the first games that my mother-in-law, my dad's wife, that she bought me when I was a kid, and I was, oh wow, I was so excited. All of my friends were playing Mega Man, Mario. They were playing Ninja Gaiden, and I was playing SimCity. So I was the awkward in the bunch.
This compared to the Phantasmagoria theme,
Yeah.
this seemed like a lullaby to it, and this aspect like calming, and you're just relaxed when you're playing the game. That's amazing. Good.
You need to make a mix of Phantasmagoria and SimCity and post it on your channel right away.
Yes. So my next song that I picked, it's Katamari Damacy, and this is a PlayStation game, and I remember this game and the soundtrack because my friend, she had a PlayStation, and she borrowed me that PlayStation for a week and a couple of games with it, and Katamari Damacy was one of those games, and I remember it was like an exam week in school, and I was just like playing the game during daytime, and I remember staying up the whole night playing Katamari. The soundtrack it has these strange elements, and it's very captivating and fascinating, and even still today in my car I like to listen some of those Katamari Damacy soundtrack songs.
I remember seeing the when this game came out on, I believe it was on PlayStation. You're right. It was one of those games. I was like, "What is this?" And all the bright colors and the little music. And you roll a ball, and I was like, "What is this?" But I do remember that it was an amazing game. So when I saw your choice, I was eager to go see. I thought at first it was the theme song, but you didn't choose a theme song. You chose Stars. Is that correct?
And like the whole soundtrack, like I said, I still listen to it. The opening theme is wonderful. I love it. This Katamari Stars is kind of like your SimCity, actually. It's kind of like relaxing and calm. And I just like to listen to it sometimes. Just the other evening, I was listening to it. Just like it calmed me and relaxed me. It's amazing.
All right. Now that I can fully envision you stuck in traffic, having a long day. You're like, oh, I just want to get to work, and all cranky and pops in the song, la 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 la, starts dancing while she's stuck in traffic.
You're so right.
Oh man. So again, good choice. So again, everyone can now see who the expert in music is. I have SimCity, and you have it's a very orchestrated song. So this is the kind of song I would love to see live. I would love to see you doing a cover of this. Good luck.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Oh no, that was a good one. So speaking of PlayStation, so I think this is where we're gonna sync up. Have you ever played Diablo?
Unfortunately, no, I haven't.
Okay, it's not the same type of adventure game, but have you ever heard of Diablo? I know it's a very popular game.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. The best one in the series, if you have to play one, I suggest you play part number 2. However, you cannot deny how the first one, the first Diablo, how that game was amazing. And for people scratching their heads, why am I talking about the PlayStation Diablo version? Well, although Diablo started on PC, and everybody will probably agree that the PC version was the best compared to the PlayStation version. I never actually played the PC version. I did play it much later on, back like in the 2000s. But when it came out, I remember Diablo is the first game that I actually bought with my own money. When I was like 15 or 16 years old, I got my first paycheck. I used to work for the credit bureau for Equifax Canada, so people would call me when they were denied credit all day long, and they would scream at me all day long. Why have you denied me credit? It was a great game, so it was a great job. So when I was able to take that paycheck and buy my own video games, it was all worth it.
Yes.
And Diablo, the original theme song, the village theme song is, again, it's one of those kind of like SimCity. It's one of those relaxing. It's a moody song. Like when you listen to it, you can see that there's something that's going up in this town. And when you start going into the catacombs, in the cathedral, you go in the cathedral and eventually the catacombs, the caves, and you fight all these monsters. And Diablo, one of the reasons why it holds a place in my heart, other than because it's Diablo, it's mostly because I remember playing this with one of my good friends, David. You can see that my memories is very attached to the people with whom I played the games as well. we would stay up all night playing on. It was like the 2 players on the same screen. We would explore the dungeon, and of course Diablo was a new thing. Today it doesn't look like much, but back then it was amazing. It was, oh wow, okay, now we're gonna open this door, and then there was like 50 monsters that would rush us. Oh, close the door, run away, and okay, we're gonna have to try to do this differently. So it was all part of the Diablo charm. So for me, for one of my best songs that marked me, that means something to me, Diablo theme song on PlayStation.
Yes, I was actually listening to this song and I liked it, and I fell in love with it. It's very beautiful and dark and mysterious.
I think that fits the bill perfectly. You
Yes.
summed it up perfectly. Yes.
Favorites from this list of yours.
Yay!
Then, okay. When my friend borrowed me the PlayStation, the other game that I was playing during that exam week was Eco. It was a beautiful game, beautiful atmosphere, beautiful sound effects. But I just remember being so awful with that game. It was frustrating to play because I wasn't familiar with the console, the controller, and the jumping horrible. And my friend compared our progress times, and she was laughing at me that I was progressing so slowly. And I remember this heal theme, especially from the soundtrack, because you hear it when you're saving the game. It was like a breather for me when I was saving the game. It's like I don't have to jump off from the cliff or whatever. It was just like it was a beautiful game, but I had these negative feelings related to it.
I remember that. I remember being amazed, and everybody back in the day, I was reading a lot of like PlayStation magazines and stuff like that. This came out on PlayStation 2, if I recall. I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure it's PlayStation 2. And I was reading a lot of the PlayStation magazine, and everybody was incensing this game as one of the best looking game. It truly felt like an epic game, and the soundtrack was a big part of it. So
Yes.
I do agree. I wasn't a big fan of the whole escort mission, because basically the whole game is an escort mission. You have to come on, get over here, hold a hand. You have to cross and find a way. But it did add a lot of different type of puzzles, which was it was amazing. The combat was fun too. You had to, if I remember correctly, you had to fight like these demons shape. You had to protect the girl, if I remember. And I know the feeling of being stuck in a tense game, and when you hear that music, you know that you're in a safe place, so you let your
Yeah.
guard down. So no, I understand what you're feeling when you're referring to the Heal theme song. So we are up to our final picks. So
Yes.
and this is actually going to be this is a funny one because it's probably one of the oldest songs on the list. However, it's one of the most recent songs that marked me, that meant something to me. It's actually when I got to finally play Gabriel Knight 2: A Beast Within, which is one of the I'll straight up say it. It's one of my favorite adventure games. It's my favorite FMV game, even over Phantasmagoria, which was my favorite FMV game for maybe 20 years.
Okay.
However, when I was young, I remember seeing Gabriel Knight: The Beast Within, that box. Have you ever seen the white box with like the vampire face that's coming through the like the sheet or whatever is on the box?
Sharp teeth.
Yeah.
Is it a werewolf?
Yeah. I said vampire, but yeah, I'm guessing it. Well, back then I thought it was a vampire. I was, oh wow, look, it looks like a. But yes, knowing the game, it's probably a werewolf. But I remember seeing that game every time I went to the store, and every time I would pick it up, I would look in the back, I would see Gabriel, and I was like, oh man, this looks. My love for FMV games was not the same as now because they weren't as cheesy, because they were the new thing back then, back in the 90s. So there wasn't this whole, oh, let's play a FMV game, and we would start giggling because we knew that it was, well, gonna suck, in brackets. But this game, oh my god. This game is actually, I got it on GOG.com. It's like one of the first purchase that I made on that site, because I told myself I'll finally be able to play this game that I skipped, and oh my god, why did I skip this game? This game is amazing. The theme song, as soon as I booted it up, there's something about that theme song, and this is something I know I already sent you when I first discovered you back on YouTube and on your Patreon channel. This is a song that I would love to see you recreate, the original theme song from Gabriel Knight 2. There's this majestic feeling to it, and when you consider that the theme song is associated to the story of Ludwig II, every time that they talk about Ludwig, they come back to this theme song, and this is without even knowing the Ludwig part. It's what I felt the first time that I listened to it. I was, oh wow, okay, this is new to me. I was used to listening to SimCity and listening to ice hockey and stuff like that. So when there's this big orchestrated sting that comes in, I'm out of words. It's
Yes. It's a very emotional song.
Yes, indeed, it is very emotional.
I
There's
could even imagine it in some sort of soap opera TV opening scene in some sort of weird way. It reminds me of that, but it's very emotional, and I'm actually thinking of that maybe I should cover. I'm still missing Gabriel Knight 2 songs from that game, so I think I'm going to have to cover
That would make me so happy.
game.
That would be like
Yes.
Christmas coming early. But no, definitely, and of course, once I played through Gabriel Knight 2, it's one. I'm the type of person that I have, like, even today, I have so many video games. I have about 1,000 different games on Steam and GOG.com. But I tend to always come back to the games that I like instead of trying new games. And I think I came back to Gabriel Knight 2 maybe 4 or 5 times, which is a lot for me, since usually it's okay, if I finish a game once, that's a good thing. So Gabriel Knight 2, and I forgot to mention, it's actually the first game that got me into streaming on Twitch. Even though it's not the first game that I streamed, when I discovered Twitch about 4 years ago, I'm trying to recall, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I saw people playing all these new games at the time that were coming out, and I thought, hey, nobody's playing like these old FMV games, and
Mm.
I had just finished Gabriel Knight 2, and I said, I'm gonna stream Gabriel Knight 2. Unfortunately, my PC was not strong enough. I didn't have a webcam, so I never actually did it. But I always told myself, someday I'm gonna start streaming because I want to share this game. Not everybody has the reflex of, when they start gaming, they're usually going to go towards what's popular, what's new, what's coming out. They're not going
Yeah.
to look back 20, 30 years ago. Hey, look, there was this weird dude that that you play these videos, and it doesn't look good. And so that's why I wanted to share this. And I remember when I did eventually stream it, was I had a lot of younger folks coming on my channel and saying, hey, what are you playing? Oh yeah, I didn't even know that existed. So
Yeah.
I,
Amazing.
I was spreading the word. Gabriel Knight 2. Oh, Dean Erickson. Oh, sorry. It's my girly moment. Oh. I wish I had his hair. I want his hair. I'm jealous.
Yes, his hair is amazing.
Hey, by the way, I might be doing an interview with Dean Erickson soon.
Ooh, wow.
I reached out to him. I reached out to him about 2 3 weeks ago, and he got back to me. So and he says, "Yeah, sure, send me your questions." So I'm like, "Ooh, okay." So
Gotta check that out.
I'll make
Mm.
sure to send you a copy once I have it.
Mm.
And I think we are now at your number one.
Number one, or the last one on this list. It's not very old game, but it's the Dreamfall, The Longest Journey. Um, I chose this hospital room theme because it's so beautiful. It's like so beautiful song. I kind of like related or saw myself as this Zoe, the main character. So the hospital room theme is so beautiful that it's one of the most beautiful game music or songs that I heard in a game. And it kind of like reminds me of some Disney songs. It's kind of like that emotional, kind of like cheesy a little bit, but not too much. It just touches my heart whenever I hear that song. It's the time to stop still, and I just concentrate. I concentrate and I listen to that music, and maybe shed a few tears. It's so beautiful.
So is this one of the songs that you would just basically leave the gameplay, let the game play, and do other stuff while you listen to it?
It kind of like plays in this cut scene, I remember. Oh yeah, the cut scene goes, but I listen to it on YouTube sometimes.
Dreamfall is another one that is another title. I know a lot of people consider it as one of the best recent adventure games. I think they made a second one too, right? If I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure I saw Dreamfall 2. I might be mistaken.
Yes, there is one third even out. Yes, it's the third. It's in the recent. Oh gosh, I don't remember anymore. But there is The Longest Journey, the first one, and the second, and maybe the third. Yes, it's the third.
So do you consider that pretty much? Is it the game itself that has all this wonderful soundtrack, or is it really the hospital room that really marked you? Because I'm going to be playing all of the games that you told me, and I want to be able to spot the ones that means the most to you.
It's the story and the scene. The game ends in this cliffhanger. So I'm not spoiling anything, but it's a cliffhanger, and this room is kind of like related to it, and the music. It's beautiful.
Oh, that's good. Is this one that eventually you think you might be doing on your channel?
Sure, because it's it's like perfect as it is. I don't know if I could bring anything new to it, but
Hmm.
I'll think about it.
Oh, that's nicely said. That's pretty good. Now I have to. This is one that I remember. I remember watching when I was doing the list, but I have like you make me want to go and play the game now. I want to play this one. I want to play all the games that you mentioned. They're all even the Katamari one. I want to. I don't know if they re-released that one. Did they? Is it only on PlayStation? If it's only on PlayStation, I won't be able to get it. But I can always listen to the soundtrack in my car while I'm stuck in traffic.
Yes, yes. Do that, definitely.
All right, so that pretty much covers our lists. So I think we have some very interesting choices, a lot of different titles that people will be able to go ahead and look up, a lot of game series that people might not be aware of that they'll be able to go and explore, listen to the beautiful soundtracks.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you also because I'm curious. We've been talking about games, video games. So I was wondering what are your favorite games of all time? Not only because of the soundtrack. Like if I have to, if I ask you, Katja, I want to play a game. What game do you want to play?
Ooh, I'm always going to be a fan of this the Vampire, the Masquerade Bloodlines. I'm always going to answer that. It's my reply. Vampire, the Masquerade Bloodlines is
Okay.
my favorite game.
All right. And what games are you playing right now? Do you are you like an active gamer? Do you play maybe more recent titles, or are you more of an old school type of player?
Do play these new kind of like new games most of the time, but I don't play that much as I used to. Like a couple of months ago, I finished the Far Cry 5, but
Hmm.
at the moment, I have this ongoing project that I want to finish the Wolfenstein: The Old Blood, but it seems that I'm always so scared when I'm playing that game that I have to like take a break after 30 minutes. I just don't know why, but I'm just super scared when I'm playing that game.
Okay, so you are into modern shooters, and okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but I'm scary cat most of
Say,
the time.
no, but yeah, Wolfenstein. I remember the first one was an epic one, and I'll be able to tell you the story of Wolfenstein 3D some other day. But now the Wolfenstein actually also holds a place in my heart. One of the best multiplayer games that I've ever played is the free-to-play Wolfenstein Enemy Territory that came out in 2001. I'll say. It was this free to play game where you chose your class. You had the soldier that could have more weapons. You had the sniper that could steal enemy uniforms and try to infiltrate the other team. So kind of like Team Fortress 2. So
Mhm.
but no, yeah, I have many hours devoted to Wolfenstein. I have not really played the newer ones, but maybe someday I'll get to them. I'm not a big horror type of guy. Besides Phantasmagoria, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So where exactly can we find you? Let's finish with this. Tell us about where we can find you, what projects you're working on, and if people want to get to know you a little bit better, where do they need to go?
Yes, I mostly do those YouTube videos, so you can find me on YouTube under username Katja Savia, Katja Savia. And I'm also using Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. In there, you can find me by searching Katja Savia. At this moment, I'm planning on making a couple of game music covers during this year and some original music, but game covers as well. That's my plan for the rest of the year.
Okay, that's pretty good. I'll make sure to include the links to
Yeah.
all of your social media and Twitter feeds so that people can easily find you. So once again, I wanted to thank you for taking time of being on the podcast. It was wonderful getting to discover all of these new songs and soundtrack. So
Interesting to know your choices as well.
so we'll definitely have to do that again. We'll have to do that again sometimes after I've played all the Secret of Monkey Island, the Broken Swords, and all the other games that you're making me want to play.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you once again for being here, and I guess all that there's left to do is to wish you to have a nice day.
And thank you for having me.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Retro Viking Podcast. This episode was made possible thanks to our Patreon supporters. If you'd like to support and get involved with the podcast, become a Patreon today. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube.